Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chris and Andre Show.
Oh, man. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chris and Andre Show. I'm Andre.
And I'm Chris.
Man, this guy, he's moved to the beach, and he's already on some BS, but I swear on my right toe.
What BS am I on now that I wasn't on before? That's
man, I know, right? Now you're just feeling bolder. I'm not going to drive 2.5 hours.
There is a lot more distance between us. You're right.
Yeah. But, man. So, what's been going on with you, bro?
Life, work, mostly. Yeah. So I just got back from my first trade show in 17 months.
Wow.
Usually we do one about every 6 months. So it went well. It wasn't nearly as busy as it usually is, but I didn't see that as a bad thing. And the people that we met with were, like good quality meetings. It wasn't, people that ultimately you don't really
shopping.
feel like, yeah, and people that aren't gonna like
Nickel and dime you.
So there's like this joke within our company where it's kind of like they're the next great dog product, because almost every year when you go to one of these trade shows, somebody comes in with, well, I've got the next great dog collar, I've got the next great dog harness, and it's going to be the best thing since sliced bread, and I'm looking to place bulk quantity orders. And you're like, great, what kind of quantities are you thinking? They're like, 500 pieces. It's like, wow, okay, like, that's awesome. Our minimum order is usually at 3,000. We can do 500. But yeah, it's just like, and then they, it's like in a lot of business, right?
Right.
Which, speaking of which, collaboration, synergy, thinking outside the box,
Buzzwords.
raising the bar, breaking down silos, Andre's favorite, shifting the paradigm, disrupting the market, business. I mean, all of those. You can't have business without all of those other words. That's how business is done.
I know. But the buzzwords are just...
It's so bad.
Gosh.
I know. But yeah, like in a lot of businesses, the small customers take up the most time. Like They're the ones that are oftentimes the biggest headaches, or that require the most like hand-holding or nurturing, in order for them to be successful, for them to feel like they're getting what they need from you. Whereas the larger customers, probably because they have more support within the organization itself, are more self-sustaining. Like you send them products and they're like, cool, I'll let you know if I need anything, and you don't really hear anything. So with the next great dog product, people, it's often like you spend weeks kind of going back and forth over email or phone calls, like talking about these things, and then you'll spend a month working on this thing, send a bunch of samples, and then you never hear from them again. And because once they get into it far enough, they're like, oh crap, I'm going to have to charge $600 for my dog collar because of all the things that I want to put on it and how much it actually costs to make those things.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's my philosophy on business is it's not very complicated. You have your widgets and people that are going to buy your widgets, whatever they may be. And why I'm so anti-buzzword, it's like none of that stuff works at the end of the day. Like you'll start out, you get to grow your company one way or the other, and it'll either be successful or not, right? Yeah. And you're primarily going to be successful if you're doing the right things. Like I watched this video on Culver. It's a restaurant, it's a fast food place. I think there's like 10 in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Culver's. And their growth was kind of slow and steady. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It sounded like who wants to go into business to be the next, like, Phil, Amazon or the next, Tesla. Nobody wants to do that. You can't really sustain that. That's a long-term goal. And I think people get so enamored with these unicorn companies or they forget the hard work that goes into them,
right,
that they lose sight of that. It just blows my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you're a self-proclaimed business genius, so. You're right. There are things that I will say from 2.5 hours away that I wouldn't say from 2.5 feet away.
But to that comment, I think that the fundamentals are the fundamentals. So screw you.
Some groundbreaking stuff there, Andre. The fundamentals are the fundamentals.
Well, I mean, it's true though. I mean, tell me a company that doesn't understand that. That's successful.
No,
and you can probably.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just making fun of you.
I know. Screw you. I'm not in the mood.
Well, then you've come to the wrong place, sir.
I know. But that brings me into the unemployment numbers. Like, there's this. It was like a couple months ago, and we haven't published a lot of episodes lately, so I couldn't tell you when exactly.
Whose fault is that?
I don't know.
It's mine, just to be clear.
But I was saying, like, people don't want your crappy job. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like your job at the end of the day is crappy, and that's what it boils down to. And there's a lot of debate about, did the stimulus checks impact the employment field, or et cetera, all the excuses. The reality is there's a lot of crappy companies out there.
Yeah.
And provided people don't have to work there, or they see that, oh, I don't have to do this, or they were able to do it for so long and find a way out, what do you think they're going to do?
Right.
And that's what's definitely hurting the retail segment of the industry, or the market, especially the restaurants.
Yeah.
They are struggling. And I get it. But I'll tell you this, like, if you're in a restaurant, guess what's not going to cut it? $15 an hour. I can almost guarantee you that the lack of people coming to apply at these jobs, you're going to have to go above and beyond of a one-time signing bonus or whatever. You have to change literally the whole culture of your organization. Because what happened to the employees is impacting the employers, and it will happen again. And for the longest time, it's been the employer's market. The reality is, I don't think that's really been true.
Yeah, that's been like a false perception that, oh, you should be lucky to have a job. And at the end of the day, it's like, well,
you should be lucky here.
Yeah, exactly. You're lucky that I'm willing to put up with the crap that you make me deal with for the money that you pay me. Although, you and I have talked about that element of it. Like, people will take less money in order to not have to deal with crap.
Yeah.
Like crap that they don't want to put up with.
Yeah, it's like if you don't understand, or you choose to ignore the fact that your employees actually choose to go to work at your place of employment, then you're an idiot. Like, if you just don't get that, you're an idiot, and you deserve to go out of business. So.
Well, and think about, like, at the beginning of the pandemic when restaurants closed, and restaurants just cut their whole staff. It was like, not to say that they necessarily had a choice, right? But like you and I have talked about, and you always kind of made the point, if you didn't have a plan to keep yourself afloat for the next 6 months, like, you shouldn't have been in business in the first place. Right. And for a lot of places, like, if they'd had that plan for 6 months that included being able to keep their employees on at some base level, they probably wouldn't be in the same position.
Right.
But now you're asking people to come back and work for $2.13 an hour plus tips. And who are the ones that you're seeing on social media who are constantly getting blasted by rowdy customers, right? I mean, it's like begging people to go be an airline attendant, a flight attendant these days. Like, you think people are lining up for that job?
Yeah, they're duct taping people to the seat. What are we doing, folks?
I mean, like, I did not experience any of that during my trip to Denver, fortunately. I took 4 flights. The staff was all very friendly, but
right.
like the people on Delta made it abundantly clear, you will wear a mask, it will cover your mouth and nose, and if we have to remind you more than twice, you will get fined and you can be banned from the airline. Like, there was no messing around with that stuff. Every single flight attendant that got on the thing to do the safety announcement made a point, was like, you will wear a mask the entire time you're on this flight. It wasn't, I mean, it's the longest I've had to wear a mask, and it wasn't that bad. Like, when I got, to Denver and got outside, I took it off and was like, oh, this feels better. But it wasn't like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm dying from carbon dioxide poisoning. I saw the best thing. It was like somebody complaining about, like talking about masks and carbon dioxide poisoning, and some doctor's response being like, well, if you're worried about carbon dioxide poisoning from masks, wait till you hear what I have to tell you about global warming.
That is hilarious. That is super hilarious. That's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, I think, you're asking people to come back and do a job that they don't ultimately want to do, right? Like, I mean, there are some people, yes, who enjoy serving and waiting tables and bartending and all that sort of stuff. Like, I get that they're, especially down here, like at the beach, that's a job that people enjoy doing because you can usually earn decent tip money.
I know people that can make $300-400 a day just being a server.
Yeah, right.
Like in Raleigh, like where are they eating?
Yeah, but I mean, you can ultimately, and so it's not like it's a job that you can't make money at, but it's ultimately a job that a lot of people have decided they don't want to do.
Right.
And our economy, for whatever reason, is built on like 60% mom and pop restaurants. It's like, how did we end up in this position where it's like,
because it's the number one, it's the one of the lowest barrier to entries to start a small business. And I totally, and now I understand that, but it's like, okay, but for what? Like,
yeah, it's like it's a low barrier to entry because there's tons of lightly used restaurant equipment laying around for very cheap because of all the other restaurants that have gone under before you. Like, go buy their crap. I mean, like, that's not a good sign,
Well,
but it's,
if you don't have to gain a new skill, if you can already cook, right, quote unquote, right, if you can decide max 20 to 32 item menu, give or take, right, and you've got a cheap place, sure. If the place where you're living is growing, like Fuquay would be a good example. If you're that person that gets a shop in Fuquay right now, you're probably going to be good.
Right.
But if you get that shop in like Raleigh,
yeah,
a little bit oversaturated. If you get that shop in, you get that shop in Cary, and I bet you if you do like just a quick, survey of the restaurants that are popular there, they probably have been there for at least 20 years. They're probably not going anywhere. 10 years to 20 years. They're probably not going anywhere until the kids decide that, or if they have kids, they just don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
But for the average person, you're not going to make it your first 5 to 7 years unless you're part of a chain.
Right.
And then you could still be screwed. So, getting the blinders off of when I hear the unemployment numbers, and I look at the numbers I look at are kind of like, people always talk about kitchen table economics. Well, that's typically just like fluff words. they don't really look around their community and to see what's actually happened. Like going to the grocery stores and seeing what people are buying. I noticed in the grocery store, like the last 3 times I've gone in different grocery stores, on Wednesday and Thursday, there are empty shelves. Like there are products where there's nothing there or there's like one item there.
Yeah.
So that tells me the supply chain is still probably buckled a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed that, but
yeah,
it's really weird.
Well, and it's like plywood cost has finally come down. It's like, where an 4x8 sheet was previously running at like almost $90. It's back down to like 48 right now, but it's still hard to find.
Right.
So it's like some of the supply chain has gotten better to the point where the prices come down, but now that the prices come down, people are snatching it up left and right.
Right.
And so
you've got artificial inflation, which I think is BS, and the rate of increase of inflation doesn't make any sense. And I get there's a low supply on some things, but the artificial inflation makes absolutely no sense. All the pent up demand, you could have driven you can drive that to the bottom line. So I don't know if it's the retailers that are being like bullied by the distributors or whatever, but it's like you guys are you're creating a bubble. I have friends that have bought houses, and I'm planning on doing some remodeling, and I'm actually, my gut's telling me, especially in this area, this is a housing bubble. I'm almost cautious to buy because I think that in 2 years I'm going to be at a negative.
Right.
I'm really, my gut's saying, and I've seen this before. I've seen this like 2 or 3 times before, and the last time actually screwed me. So I don't want to play that game. But my gut's telling me in this area, Wake County, it's a bubble.
Well, and if right now, if you're approaching that bubble bursting, then you're basically at the highest point that you could pay for something. And so even if you can afford it, right. Logically, does it make sense to overpay for something now, right? And that's where, again, it's like some people who are like, oh, I'm going to take advantage of the market and sell my house, and then they turn around and they're like, so what do I buy now? Oh, crap. There's nothing available. Or if there is, it's out of my price range, right?
Right. So inventory it's surprisingly, new inventory is super low, and that's a lot because of supply chain. I get that. Existing inventory is scarce in Wake County. And houses are selling between 25 and 40% over list price. That's become like the norm. And I get interest rates are low, blah, blah, blah. That's great. Provided this lasts for 5 years. Right. If it lasts 18 months, in 2 years from now, if you purchase today, you're looking at negative equity. Unless you bought in a very high priced part of town that continues to grow, which I doubt. The math doesn't equal, basically. Yeah. I've seen this before.
I hear exactly what you're saying. It really ultimately depends on where it is that you're purchasing too, right?
Right.
I was very fortunate that at the price that I got in at and where I purchased in Cary previously, even during the 2008 bubble, I lost a little bit of equity for a very short amount of time, and then it came right back up.
Right.
Because the housing market there was, I think, to some degree kind of undervalued up to that point in that area.
I think in your area was like one of the last coves of people actually being in Cary proper. So that was always like the secret mojo to your neighborhood.
Yeah.
No kidding. I was looking at a house there. I was like, I might move there because I can just gut the whole thing and start all over. I know what's going to happen.
I knew a guy that was selling a house in that neighborhood. Could have gotten you a good price.
But you see what I'm saying? So, like, if you want to be in Cary proper, like your neighborhood was one of the last places. You had your neighborhood, the Highlands, East Lockmere, and I can rattle them all off. But you weren't going to lose money. Like so you were good. Yeah. But if you buy into a newer development, and like I've seen like 2 or 3 reading the trades where they started building but they stopped. I mean, they really have them framed, but they're not going to complete it because of whatever. Yeah. They're giving people their deposits back, or some people aren't getting their deposits. It's just like it's all the warning signs.
Yeah.
It's all the warning signs of this could be a oh crap moment. And
right, because then you end up with a bunch of builders who are overextended credit-wise, and they can't get rid of the stuff that they have, and so then the asset falls out of the market because they start discounting it. And so then everybody else starts discounting, and your existing inventory becomes more readily available as the prices come down. And yeah, like there's only so much that they can do in terms of like trying to keep interest rates low and
let them go up.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like, they need to at least start the process, right? Like, at least start to let it climb back up a little bit. I mean, like, if you wanted to drop it down to 0 for, like, a day so I can refinance and then bring it back up, that would be great.
But all those things are marginal. Like, when
it
you
is.
Look at it
I mean, you're not wrong. It's fractions when it comes to, like, your monthly payments and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, it's not... And I'm not super worried about it. Like, if the loan that I have right now, if I'm not able to refinance, like, that's not a problem. I'm like,
right.
I'm not like, oh, I got a loan where if I don't refinance before all this stuff falls apart, then.
Yeah, those are marginal like decisions, and people that are like, oh, let me get an adjustable rate. Did you not see how that played out last time? Like, let's not do that again.
No. Never with an adjustable rate.
Yeah, marginal gains are marginal gains, right? And a house it's literally and truly an investment.
Yeah.
And I look at it that way, and it's kind of like, yes, I do have the house itch, right? I kind of want to start remodeling, but it's like, no, I need to wait for materials. It's like, I'm not paying $89 for a piece of plywood. That ain't going to happen. I'm not waiting 8 months for a door. Like, that's not going to happen. So,
no, it was only like 6 weeks for a door.
I'm not doing that.
It was 4 months for cabinets.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Trust me. Like, this was not the ideal time to be renovating a house.
Oh no.
But
I guess with major, right? If you can refinish and resurface some stuff, you're fine.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to do major, like, pull out, replace, then probably coin flips all over that. But yeah, I hope that people. I don't know. I hope that there's a little bit of, people look for a little bit of wisdom in what they're doing as far as business. Like, we're not going to eradicate the fact that there are people that are poor. Like, that's just not going to be a thing. But for what we can do, there are things we can do to stabilize the market that make it work. What we're doing right now is just like, there are telltale signs of we're gonna hit a bubble. We are literally going to hit a bubble, and yeah. So, I kind of want to vent about 2 things.
Okay. Do I need an intro to lead us in this? Which one would you like?
Do we have one?
For what?
What's good for venting? It's going to be politics.
Okay, well, there you go.
It's time for politics.
Are we going to talk about your boy?
we're going to talk about, look, Afghanistan. First of all, here's what I feel. I'm going to say, number one, I support the president. Oh, you know what? Let's go back. Let's talk about Mr. Cuomo. I don't want to. Like,
I mean,
because I don't
we
think
have to spend some amount of time on it.
I know because
talked about him in the past
in a
on
positive,
the show.
in a positive light, and
So I think
I will admit
important.
I have a bias for the Cuomo family, right?
Yeah.
And I will say this, and this is how I feel about it. I think the timing of these investigations were kind of suspect from the very beginning. I did not read any of the briefs because I don't think any of them were public or anything like that, even redacted. If he did those things, shame on him. It just sucks to see a Cuomo go out like that, if I'm being honest, right?
Yeah.
And I think what really did kind of made me feel like there were other motives was the fact that in recent days it's like, well, there have been various issues with Andrew Cuomo, regarding how he's led the state, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, well, pick a lane that you want to be in. If those things were issues, as a legislator, you guys could have fixed that.
Right.
That whole body could have fixed and addressed those things. They're not the same category of issue that you're trying to address. And that's what kind of made me want to tune out of it. And if there was cover-ups, shame on them. So I'm not giving them a pass. I just think it's questionable how things kind of lined up and how things came out.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of that lately with the, the timing of things being awful convenient, right?
Right.
But I think, to your point, like, it doesn't necessarily undercut the veracity of the complaints, right? And the accusations. I don't think that I had the same affinity for the Cuomo family that you did, not being from New York and all of that. Obviously I like Chris Cuomo because we've talked about him and Don Lemon and their,
They're hijacking of our format.
Yeah, their attempt to rewrite history as the greatest bromance of our century clearly is not the case. But yeah, honestly, beyond that, I don't know anything about the Cuomos, so I don't know. I never felt like I was up here, putting on a cape for them or anything like that. I think that there's one question that I don't know the answer to, but is it possible to be both Italian and perverted, or can you only be one or the other?
Well, I'm not Italian, but I will say that
when I saw that, I just wanted to be like, dude, Italians everywhere had to be like,
cringing
on,
a little bit.
man.
I mean, but it's.
I get
it's
cultural stuff. I do.
Yeah.
I understand that, but at the same time, not everybody's Italian that you're working with, right? And so you kind of have to make sure that as a person of authority that you're doing what you need to do to make people feel comfortable. And if you've been making people feel uncomfortable, it sounds like you kind of maybe knew about it. And you're just like, well, I'm just Italian. Nothing I can really do. I'm just gonna kind of put my hands all over you,
that's where I kind of I always draw back on, right? Because a lot of it is and I'm trying to be careful because I'm not trying to I would never say for anybody that got I don't want to say felt uncomfortable or I don't want to make an accusatory statement of assaulted either because we don't know the facts,
right?
But whoever's in that situation, for him and for the I don't know. It's just kind of dude, if that happened, own it, walk away, right? Just move on.
Yeah.
But don't try to scapegoat, well, it's a cultural thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, 100%. I think, that's probably my biggest issue with it, is that it feels like an attempt to deflect.
He's embarrassed though.
I think like he should be. Honestly,
Sure.
like if these accusations are true, then yeah, like he should be embarrassed that he's done these things. And
well, the media didn't help. I mean, they clawed onto it. That was like their top topic. I'm like, we got other stuff going on, and we're talking about the mayor of the governor of New York. And I'm not saying that's not an important thing.
right,
It's like, look, this is not. I don't need to hear about. I get it. And even through my bias, I'm like, okay, unless you're presenting new information, I don't need 6 pundits telling me about it.
yeah, I mean the news is garbage at this point. Like
Yeah.
I keep up with this stuff through the stupid notifications that I get, and occasionally like eavesdropping on my mom watching like the Today Show and stuff like that in the mornings, or the local news. And it's like, okay, I have an idea of what's going on. That's all that really matters. Because beyond that, I'm so sick and tired of it, and not to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm just going to tune it all out. Like, I'm trying to stay informed about what's going on, but I'm trying not to fall victim to, like watching clips of a certain former president talk about stupid things that don't matter anymore. And
Right. I mean, I say all that to say this. Look, I do have bias for the Cuomo family, and that is 100%, right? But right is right and wrong is wrong. So I want to delineate that. So I don't want people saying, well, you're supporting the sexual assault. Well, first of all, let's see how the cards play out. Like, we don't have all the facts, so we can't make those determinations right now. We can't. I will not say that. And I'll also say, to be very clear, I think assaulting anybody is wrong. When I was a kid, one of my friends got raped, and the only reason that whole nightmare ended for her was because I was walking my dog. So I don't think it's something to joke around about or lie about, or to make false accusations of anything in that nature. So I want to be very clear on that. But I'm hard pressed to accuse anybody of anything or deny somebody their reality, and I don't want to use that whole their truth, because I wasn't there. I'm not going to litigate this in court.
Right.
I do think what I do think is BS is people coming after Chris Cuomo.
Yeah.
Like, I think that is garbage.
What about
And
your brother, man? Like,
yeah, it's like,
what
yo,
about
that's my brother.
Like
100%. Every scenario they've thrown out, I'm like, at the end of the day, that's dude's brother. Like,
Yeah.
What do you expect? I'm not going to talk to my brother because he's going through something? Get out of here. Like, none of that makes sense to me. I'm not even having that conversation with you.
Yeah.
I get CNN's position. I don't think it leads to a lack of trust. I respect him more because at some level he's got his brother's back. Like, screw all the business politics of it, whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't make. I mean, if one of my brothers, if you were in trouble, and somebody said I can't talk to you, like, you need to go somewhere with that. That's not going to happen. Yeah. Like, what are you asking me? You're making me choose between my family and this? Get out of here.
Yeah.
I think that is garbage. And anybody that's saying, like, I get you're hating because the guy's successful, and that's probably more so what it is. But it's not the right argument. If he does something completely detrimental to, like, anything, sure, have at it. But talking and presumably defending his brother, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. There's no reason to think that that's inappropriate. Like, that's,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that, regardless of their positions. And
right.
Yeah, it's people are looking for any reason to be angry about a bunch of different stuff, and anybody that they don't like. I mean, I was in the same position with the whole Matt Gaetz stuff 6 months ago, 3 months ago, last month.
It's still going on, though.
Right. No, I know it's still going on, but that's the same thing. Like, I'm just like, you know what? When he's indicted and convicted or whatever happens, that's what's going to happen. You know what isn't going to impact it? My knowledge of the situation on a day-to-day basis. Like,
who cares? Like, update me with some new information.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
all
say
that
there's-
stuff. Like, I've just tuned them all out because I'm done. Like, I'm done letting that be part of my, like, influence part of my day-to-day life.
Yeah.
I'm just, those people don't matter. They're not ultimately important in the grand scheme of things here and what I do. And so I'm not going to waste my time and energy worrying about them. Like, I'm going to worry about my family and my friends and the people that I care about, that I see or interact with, you know, or care about.
Yeah,
like,
there's other
on a
stuff,
daily
you know?
basis. There's so much more than that. And it's really, I mean, you know, like, I'm certainly not, I don't want anybody to hear this and think like, oh, Chris thinks he's better than everybody. Like, I've fallen into that same trap. I'm saying, like, I recognize how easy it is and how hard it can be to pull yourself out, but, like, I'm so much happier now that I'm not wallowing in that, you know, like, garbage on a regular basis. It's just not.
It's not healthy. We're going to come back to that, though. But I do want to talk about Afghanistan. Like, I think that I want to say, first of all, hats off to President Biden. I think that he did do something that is taking several presidents to decide on. My summation of the issue is this. Is for people that are trying to compare the American evacuation from Afghanistan to Vietnam, I will tell you the same thing happened in Afghanistan that happened in Vietnam. You let the politicians start being political with a quote-unquote war, and you caused us lives, you caused us indecision, you gave no clear direction, and you made the mission, you made it lost. And we can all agree that whatever we would have done to leave Afghanistan, and we should have never been there that long. Like, we should have, after we found bin Laden and killed him, and I say we as a country, we should have packed our stuff and got out. And helped them diplomatically, helped them with the support of NATO to decide their own fate and future. Now, I know there's some analysts that were in the CIA and there are other advisors that said we missed the chance to kill the warlords. Be that as it may, the ideal time would have been to prepare to get out after bin Laden. We've completed our mission. We're done. Everything else after that was a gamble. So that falls on President Obama, the idiot, and now President Biden was able to rectify that. And it's just ugly. It's a mess.
Yeah.
There's no getting out of the fact that it is a mess.
It's been a mess since the day that we decided to go over there. You know? Yeah. I mean, like, ultimately, in this fashion or in this capacity. And I think a lot of us back then looked at it and said, this is not going to end well. Like, there is no exit strategy for this, because once you go in, anything that you do is ultimately just going to destabilize the region and create a vacuum that will be filled by Taliban, warlords, bin Laden, whoever. It doesn't matter. You know, like, you kill bin Laden, you kill a bunch of warlords, there's a bunch of other people that are going to step up, you know? Like, the Democratic, seeking folks don't want to resort to violence, right? And in a lot of cases. And so, or they don't have the military power to be able to defend against the violence that they're up against. And so what do? Like, they leave, because that's, what else are you going to do? You're going to stay there and die. I mean, those are your two choices, right? Like, but yeah, I mean, it's, I certainly don't have an answer for how this could have been done better right now. You know, like, I think I'm with you in that, to me, it would have made a lot more sense to do very low-profile, covert operations to seek out and find bin Laden, and if either capture or kill. You know, like, I think ideally would have liked for there to be some due process. You know, just so that. But yeah, I mean, I get that sentiment too.
I think he deserved that bullet. Like, and that sounds kind of messed up, but.
I don't know. Like, lately, I've been struggling with the whole, like, death penalty and, you know.
I think the death penalty in and of itself is probably, it's a coin flip, right? If somebody mass murders 20 people, then.
Yeah, but does killing them does it ultimately do anything? Like, does it bring back any of those 20 lives? Does it?
I don't.
All
I
it
don't,
is it. No, but I'm just saying, like, in my mind, you're basically saying 20 wasn't enough. Let's make it 21.
That is a fair pushback, and I don't have an answer to it. I necessarily don't see. I don't have a lot of reservations when it's something that's super grotesque, right? So I say that to say this. Like, I don't really. We definitely got Bin Laden on a covert mission. It wasn't like it wasn't a big campaign. So we could have done that one way or the other.
Yeah.
Getting out once we set up camp, we should have never set up camp.
Well, and that's just it. Is that I think we tried to do it both ways, right? Like, we tried to go in with a heavy military presence, set up shop, establish bases here and there so that we could fight the Taliban and fight the warlords in their areas and all of that stuff, and have an established military presence. And then all the while we're doing all these little covert missions, and eventually, 8, 9, 10 years later, finally find Bin Laden and kill him. All the while, we've lost how many of our own troops and civilians and journalists and people over there, or how many lives, Afghanistani lives were lost.
Well, the criticism that's being directed toward the president is the same criticism that I just think is kind of it's duplicitous, right? We don't want to be the world's police, but how are you going to let that happen?
Yeah.
What are you saying? Like, everybody wants to get out of Afghanistan. Like, we as a country, and I say we, like, collectively, most people don't think we should be there. Like, it's just okay. But what does that mean for our policy going forward? It doesn't show a sign of weakness to say, hey, look, this is not on me. And dude, he's only been in office for like 7 months. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, that's, right. And I think, it's one of those things where it's like any politician that's been in office for an extended period of time, to some degree, you get the finger pointed at you. It's like, well, you've had opportunities to do this before. But I understand, like, dude was not driving the car, for the 8 years that he was vice president under President Obama. He wasn't driving the car as a senator from Delaware. Like, those are not the things that, those are not positions where he ultimately decides, let's go to war or let's not. Now, voting, again, like, even looking back at that, I don't hold a huge grudge against people who voted to go to war in Iraq and Afghanistan at the time because of the evidence that was presented. Now, granted, we know a lot more about the veracity of that evidence now.
Right.
And between the two, I'd say we had a whole lot more business being somewhat present in Afghanistan than we ever did showing up in Iraq again. That was, I need an excuse to go, kick my daddy's bully's butt. And
I look at it this way, man. We cannot be the country. We have a good opportunity to get some of our reputation. We lost a lot of our street cred. We lost street cred going to Iraq. We lost street cred going to Afghanistan, and we pulled everybody with us, right?
Yeah.
And now it's a matter of, it's a cluster, and we want to place blame. And I don't think that's the right answer. It's like, look, I was talking to one of my sons last night. I said, you know what? If you want to start an argument with somebody, talk about all the specific things you don't like. Or you can be super general about it. You can say, for example, I don't have a good example because I'm not trying to bring this stuff up. But my point being is, like, you can speak in generalities and get your point across, as opposed to making character attacks or placing blame or making it personal.
Sure.
Because then you're going to both end up defending each other's position, and that's tick for tack. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, you're not trying to get the other person to dig in intentionally, right? Like, unless that's your goal, is to pick a fight and make somebody confrontational.
Yeah, that's never the best way to solve a problem.
No, but sometimes it's the most fun.
Sure, fun's great. when you're a child, right? You're trying to be put your big boy pants or your big girl pants
Look
on.
who are you talking to here?
Yeah, I am. I mean, a little child, act like a 7-year-old. So, I don't know. I think the people taking the time to blame this administration, or especially on the news, are just looking for sound bites.
Well, yeah.
Like,
I mean, again, like the news to me has lost so much credibility. It's part of this. I don't know, like my favorite, Bomani Jones, has talked a lot lately about like the lack of faith, right? The loss of faith in institutions. Things that we used to put a lot of credibility in and a lot of faith and belief that ultimately they would do the right things, right? Like our government, that even if there were bad actors within the government, that the government as a whole was good. That science,
in general,
doctors,
you're not going to screw it up.
Like all of those kind of fields, and now we find ourselves in a position where all of that is kind of under attack, right? Like whether it's legitimate or not, that there have been a lot of questions that have kind of been brought up, and because there have been cracks in the armor in some areas, now it's allowing for other people to be like, oh, well, isn't there also a crack over here, even where there isn't one? And
well, they're doing that, especially with the coronavirus, and I think that is. This is the other thing I wanted to vent about. And I think we talked about this. I don't remember which episode. The Delta variant. I'm like, yeah, that's going to be bad. It's like twice as contagious, and it kind of spread through India pretty quick.
Aren't we on to a new one already too? Isn't there like the Lambda variant?
The Lambda, that comes out of South America. So my call is this, and I've been saying this, by September-ish, we're going to be back at the same spot we were last year.
Yeah.
It's just inevitable. It's just like we had a great opportunity for people to get the vaccine, but idiots
who, by the way, have gotten the vaccine.
Yeah.
In staggering numbers.
It makes no sense.
People who are already vaccinated and sit there and argue against getting the vaccine. Like, I don't understand it. You are killing off your voting block. What is the long-term or even short-term play here? Like, I don't, like,
DeSantis is a freaking idiot.
Well,
he's like he's getting at Trump level.
Yeah,
Abbott.
Because there's multiple Texas school boards who are now defying his no mask mandate order in Texas. They're gonna have the same thing in Florida. Like it'll be just a matter of time before the schools are like, yeah, we're not doing that, dumbass. Like, we actually care about our kids, and
it's the arguments they make about choice, right? And on the surface, it's ironic, right?
It is.
But you don't have the choice to have an abortion, or you don't have the choice to marry who you want to marry,
or
right?
We want birth control,
or get birth
condoms,
control.
Like,
it's like you guys are really picky about that whole choice and freedom thing, personal freedom thing.
Yeah,
like you pick which one you want to follow,
right? And ultimately, like in the United States, your rights to personal freedom only extend as far as they begin infringing on somebody else's rights.
Oh my gosh! But they never.
They never get to that part of it, right? And then they never point out like that mask wearing isn't about protecting yourself, right? Getting the vaccine isn't about protecting yourself; it's about protecting others. And yes, you are part of that others group, and that other people are doing the things necessary to help you be safe. But you're choosing not to do these things. And I love how, like, in the NFL now, there's all the, Kirk Cousins had, had close contact. Dude literally came out and was like, well, maybe I just need to build a plexiglass bubble for myself. And I'm like, I'll do whatever it takes except get a vaccine. Like, I'm just saying, like, dude, there's the ridiculous lengths that you could choose to go to, or you could get stabbed in the arm with a tiny little needle twice.
It'll take a minute, bro. I literally watched Brett Favre today, like, lose his composure when he was asked if he had the vaccine. He was talking about childhood concussions in football.
Yeah.
And he was asked about the vaccine, and he was like, I don't want to share that information. And just got really defensive about it. He's like, well, this is America. People get to choose what they want to do. And I'm like, look, guys.
And we get to choose to think less of you because of it. Like, do you not understand the consequences that come with the freedom of this choice? Like, that is the whole argument here that I think so many of us wish that they understood. It's not that you aren't free to make this choice. Nobody is saying you have to get a vaccine. What we are saying is if you refuse to get a vaccine and you don't have a legitimate medical reason to do so, we are going to ridicule the hell out of you because it's a stupid decision based in absolutely no logic and that flies in the face of thousands of peer-reviewed studies in science. And it's just, I'm so over it. I'm so over it at this point.
It's beyond ridiculous. It's like, look, guys, if 99.99% of people that are in the hospital are unvaccinated, what does that tell you? I watched a guy last week who was literally, like, his whole family got COVID. He's like on a respirator. He's in ICU. And he was like, well, he just thought that he didn't need to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
And he felt like a failure to his family. I'm like, you guys, it's like the guy that talks a lot of crap over the keyboard until, no, say it to my face. I want to see if you're that strong to say it to my face. So a lot of people are talking real bold and real quick, behind this, oh, I'm not sick yet type of mentality.
Yeah.
Until they get COVID. And I don't want anybody to die, but
no.
Like, I won't feel sorry for him. And the people that keep saying, well, God this, God that. Yeah, God, like, think about it this way. Man was playing around for however it happened. We got this dangerous virus out in the open. And he gave some people some wisdom years ago to be working on this new platform to develop these vaccines. And it worked out. So sorry, like, he's like,
no,
look,
that's
he's
not good enough. If it doesn't just magically go away like the Orange Man told me it would. I mean, this is like, it all comes back to this whole, like, worshiping false idols and stuff where it's like they want to sit there and think that man was the only one telling the truth. That even God isn't doing the right thing now. Like, what?
I mean, it's just the dumbest thing. I don't get it. I don't want to. I look, if they get sick, maybe we should just not give them medical care.
I mean, like, I've heard a lot of that. I don't personally agree with that. Like,
I don't agree with it, but
I get the sentiment. Like, I wish that there was another way, right? Like, I wish that it didn't take an individual getting sick or having, somebody that they personally know getting sick and watching them suffer through this for them to realize how serious this is. Like, it's frustrating because I've yet to hear a single good reason.
Because
there isn't one. Like, I had somebody argue with me, it has a 99.7% survival rate. It's no worse than the flu, and we don't have a vaccine for the flu. And I said, what do you think is the flu shot every year? Well, I don't get that. Well, just because you don't get it doesn't mean that they don't have it. And there's a reason they have it, because people die from the flu every year. Like, yeah, maybe me and my current state, like, I'm not super likely to die from either, the flu or COVID, but that doesn't mean that I want to give it to my kid or my parents or some stranger, in a restaurant somewhere. Like, and if it requires me to simply get a shot twice, done, and wear a mask when I go out in public, done.
Easy. Yeah,
oh my gosh. Like, we can actually care about each other, you know? Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Well, I don't. Yeah, that's a rabbit hole, and I
It
feel,
is.
I have a little bit of empathy for those people because for whatever reason there's a disconnect in reality.
Yeah.
But it's just so logical, I won't argue stupid. I'll argue facts.
Right.
Like facts are. It's like, look, we can't change the facts here, but I don't agree with your opinion. Let's just call it that, and let the chips fall where they may. And I'm totally 100% okay with that. Oh, you're super.
So I just remembered this thing that I thought about earlier the other day, and it had to do with Andrew Cuomo.
How awesome I am.
So I wanted to bring it back just real quick. That, I mean, you know how screwed he is. He's got Rudy Giuliani sticking up for him.
That's not funny, dude.
You saw that though, right?
Yeah, I did. You know what I?
And you know he had to see that and be like, "Damn it, Rudy! Damn it!"
I mean, another thing that kind of made me kind of suspect was the AG is actually preparing her campaign for governor.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a lot of things where it's like if those women really experience that, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. If that was those women's experience and they're capitalizing on it, shame on them. Like literally, shame on them. Because if that comes up in her campaign, it just tells you where everybody's head's at.
No, I mean, I hear what you're saying. Like, if somebody is using this as an opportunity to advance their own political career, like, yes, shame on you, you know, wholeheartedly. Not,
yeah,
and not to say that is the only reason that any of this is coming up. Right? Like, that's, but if that's
it plays
the case,
even 1%, if it plays 1% in it, if it becomes part of the campaign
for her personally, yeah, I mean, then that becomes a huge, like, all right, you're dead to me.
Yeah, I just can't rock with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the lieutenant
I'm not
governor
mean, I'm just Italian.
And Cuomo's got a lot of love, man. A lot of people are like, I mean, it's
yeah, but when the president of the United States is calling for your resignation, like,
to be fair, I'm not discounting all those things. I'm just saying.
No, I know.
Like, to be fair, like, and I know, I don't think that's even President Biden's role, to be honest with you. Like, I think that is he can have an opinion, but he can't make a recommendation. If I'm
but I think it was the pressure from within the party, you know,
so
and because he's viewed as the party leader, right, as president. So then, and I mean, I'm with you in that I think that's not a role that the president needs to play,
right?
In general, like it's this false, you know, belief that because he's president of the United States, he's like everything he believes is what everybody wants, and it's like no, like we just liked him a little better than we liked the other person. In this case, like a lot better, but
yeah, but I think Biden is off to a good start. He's sticking to his guns. He's, you know, and I respect that a lot.
Yeah.
What else? I think the Democrats are their own worst enemy.
They always have been.
I'm going to do one quick snippet in politics.
No, you're good.
Give my little dissertation on the Democrats. Then I want to talk about other stuff. But the guy, a big campaign funder in Minnesota, got caught up in sex trafficking. Just like bananas, like crazy level. I'm like,
best friends with Jeffrey Epstein? Like,
yeah, probably so. So they're calling for the head of their convention in the state to retire or resign because they were friends. I mean, that's bananas. The Republicans can destroy themselves all by themselves. But the Democrats are literally their own worst enemy. I'm going to start out with this part I watched Being AOC. And I will say this for a long time. I've gained more respect for her and the past handful of months. I don't agree with all of her positions, but I think she has a certain character that probably makes some of the establishment kind of pissed off. Now, I say that to say this. I don't rock with everything the progressives say, and I get she made it kind of clear to me as to why I don't necessarily agree with a lot of things they have to say. From what I could gather from what she said, and AOC, correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing wrong with asking for bigger because you're asking. That's their philosophy. Mm-hmm. Not very practical, but I get it, right? But then you have the upcoming cluster. This is going to be strike 2 for the Democrats in my book. When they had an opportunity to move forward in the John Lewis Voting Act, they did not. They wanted to push H.R. 1, which was stupid. And yes, stupid. So Nancy Pelosi, you're probably not. I'm not making a personal attack. I'm just saying, like, the people we need movement and progress. That's fair. H.R. 1 was a big grab, and it just puts faces on the bill. No. We didn't need that. And then you guys unfortunately played yourselves because now you give the Republicans the moves they can make in Georgia, Texas, and the other 22 or 19 states. Now they're doing the same thing with the infrastructure bill. Mm-hmm. In order to move that, they want to see the $3.5 trillion debated. And I'm like, come on, man. You got to be kidding me, man.
No, I mean, this is what they always do. This is nothing new. It's Democrats deciding that they want, bipartisanship for the sake of bipartisanship. That it's if we can't get the Republicans to agree with us, then it's not worth doing. And
well, they're gonna push a 3.5 through with reconciliation. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Right.
There's no debate about that. It's like you guys are your own. That's why I can't altogether say I rock with you because you do stupid stuff.
I mean, yeah, it's like watching, it's like watching your favorite sports team where they have some good players, but the management just keeps fucking it up. Like every time you get a good player, they like refuse to sign. It's like you have AJ Smith from back in the Chargers days, like Phillip Rivers early days, where he's like, oh, Vincent Jackson, I don't want to pay you money. Go to Tampa Bay. Oh, LaDainian Tomlinson, we don't think you have any more left in the tank. Go play in New York. Like,
it's amazing, man. I just can't. My wife was asking, and I like Nancy Pelosi. I think, for her career, right? I respect that. But I don't like her sometimes because I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
I don't think that's the other problem is that I don't think that they ultimately have a long-term plan, right? Like when they got this opportunity, it was like they, similar to what we talked about with when President Obama won, right? There was this like, we did it. Yeah. And for like a year, it was just like, guys, we did it. Yeah. And then it was like, should we get to work? Yeah, but I mean, we got to celebrate. We got to recognize what we did to get here, right? And it's like, okay, cool. And I feel like to some degree, that's where they were, where it was like, we got rid of Trump. We did it, guys. And then it was like, oh, he's going to try and take over through like violent action. Well, I'm sure the Republicans will be on our side now. Oh, they're not? Well, I'm sure if we ask really nicely, they'll be on our side. Oh, they're not? Well, maybe if we pass a big infrastructure bill. Oh, that didn't work? Like, I mean, it's just every time, Like,
it's just par for the course, man. And then it brings me back to, like, the dysfunction in Washington and the establishment on both sides. Except for there's rarities in both parties, right? Yeah. Fun fact, 47% of the country considers themselves independent, which is a fun fact. That's good to know.
I'm having fun already.
You got this idiot Ted Cruz. God, Harvard, I hope you're proud. Who's blocking hearings for people to get into position, which is further weakening our position in foreign policy. It's like you guys are a bunch of fuck ups. Like you guys literally do nothing except for decide how am I going to get my name in the headlines and how do I fuck some shit up.
Yeah. I mean, because it is all about, like, how do I keep myself front of mind with potential voters? You know? So, like, how do I make a name for myself in this? And it doesn't matter if I'm actually helping anything or helping them.
Yeah, keep your word. Keep your word. Why has Schumer been, and I know his district, and I do follow a lot of New York politics, so I don't even live there. But his district has changed in the last 10 years, 15 years. He shouldn't exist, right? That's why he's, like rolling with AOC because
right.
I respect his choice because it keeps him out of, his head out of the clouds.
Yeah.
He realizes that's a potential, or Hakeem Jeffries, or there are people that can grow beyond him.
Yeah.
And he understands that. I may not agree with it because sometimes it looks like politicking, but he understands he's got to keep his ear to the street.
Yeah, and I'm sure sometimes it is politicking, like this is politics. That's kind of what they do. But I hear exactly what you're saying, I don't know, like it's just it's been frustrating lately to watch all of this stuff kind of go on and feel like there's very few people that are legitimately interested in participating in what government should be, and there's far more people who are interested in grandstanding and obstruction and, like you said, making a name for themselves, as a way of leveraging that for further influence or money or power or position further down the road. And
well, if they're really smart, they would actually, as much as people have disdain from even within the Democrats and probably all the Republicans, AOC is a good example of, no, she's doing the right thing. Like literally, she is sticking to her guns, kind of like our president. She understands her position and what her constituents actually want, or things that would help them plus the greater good. I may not agree on all the finer points, but I can respect her for that.
Yeah.
Those are leadership qualities. Adam Kissinger, the guy the representative from Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the same qualities. I like him a lot. Didn't really agree with his comments on the current state of Afghanistan, because I think he tried to. And Mr. Adam, dude, I like you a lot. I'm a big fan. I just want to say, you're way off base, bro. Like, it's not Biden's fault. He's been there for 7 months, bro. Like, you gotta call a spade on this one. You can't be like, well, he did extend the Trump deadline by a couple months, but I'm still gonna, because he was trying to figure out a way to navigate out of this, but it's his fault. Your boy, the former president, set this crap in motion. Let's call it like it is. Mr. Kissinger, respect you. And I'm not saying that just because it sounds nice, but you're way off base there. But anyway, follow AOC's got a playbook. Her playbook is actually legit. People rock with that. And that's what people, that's what Washington needs to understand. Anyway, I'm done because I think I just grew like 4 gray hairs talking about politics.
You had something else you wanted to rant about, right?
Social media. Oh, social media. Man, I'll tell you this. Last time we talked, it was about 2 weeks ago or last week?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, I was watching the news and I was like, let me see what's on Twitter, just to kind of, thinking we have episodes to publish and we don't. But
I mean, we do have episodes to publish, but.
And I noticed something. First, I went to Google News. All the headlines were clickbait, so Google, please get on that. You guys are paying a lot of money to these publishers, and all they have is clickbait titles. Then I look at Twitter, and for everything holy, there was nothing redeeming about Twitter. I don't know what it was I saw, but I deleted it and I felt so much better. I haven't looked at Twitter in like since then. I don't care. I just don't freaking care.
Yeah.
You can't make me care.
There is no value on Twitter beyond, and it's argumentative whether like you can argue whether or not this is even true, but I still find some value in like my initial feed on Twitter, right? Like my feed of people that I follow, I find some value in that. Where I often end up getting very upset is when I make the mistake of expanding a tweet to view not necessarily a thread, because that can be worth it, but the comments.
Yeah.
As soon as I start digging into the comments, I'm like, why am I doing this? You know, and I'll almost always find myself like wanting to reply to somebody and being like, no, not going to do that.
It's not a conversation. Like,
no, it's not. And it's like, what's the point ultimately? You know, it's somebody with, like, this happened to me the other week where I tweeted something about the Kirk Cousins thing because I couldn't, like, his ridiculous statement of I'll do whatever it takes, talking about building himself a plexiglass bubble, but he won't take a vaccine shot. And it's just kind of like pointing out the ridiculousness of those two things. And somebody's like, his body, his choice. And I'm like, yeah, like, I get that, but it's also a competitive disadvantage for his team at this point because the NFL has made the rules different for vaccinated players and non-vaccinated players. Like, if he comes in close contact with somebody, he's out, and there's nothing they can do about it.
14 days.
Yeah.
Hang it up.
Exactly. But it's just like, you know, stupid back and forth, and it was somebody who doesn't even have their face.
What was resolved?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Exactly. It's just like, and I know that people want to say that social media is a new public square. Well, to that I say, you're fooling yourself. You've been commoditized, like,
how often
the moment you
did people go out into the public square and just yell obscenities? Like, those people get arrested. Those people,
or they get their heads chopped off.
Yeah, or thrown in the drunk tank at least. Like, or they're littering the streets of Denver's downtown district because, oh my God, the number of crazy freaking homeless people there is astounding.
You should go to New York.
I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's sad. That's sad in and of itself.
It is.
But you know, I was reading something about phone addiction, and I actually, I was talking to a couple of people a few weeks ago about. I said, you guys should email me. Don't call me. Don't text me. I don't respond to that. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, when I go home, I put my phone on my nightstand. I'll grab it after dinner probably or whatever, but I'm never like, I don't use my phone like that. And they're like, but you're a geek. I'm like, yeah, I use my computer. Like my phone is like, it's an accessory. It's not like what I do. And they found that very hard to believe. But I think phone addiction's a thing. Like I've literally, I don't know if it's a dopamine thing for people, but people can't put their phones down.
It's part of it. Yeah. I mean, they've come to, we've basically been trained to expect some sort of like positive feedback from our phone, even negative feedback, you know, like, we're looking to our phone for some nudge in the right direction. Or not even the right direction, but just a nudge. You know, it's like, what should I do? Oh, I should play a game while I'm sitting on the toilet. Or, you know, while I'm waiting for the bus, I'll read this article. Or, you know, I don't know. It is. But, like, it is weird. I mean, I find myself falling victim to those things at times where it's like, you know, oh, I wonder what somebody else is doing. Or...
Dude, if I want to talk to you, I call you. And you never answer the phone. I have to text you. Hey, I'm going to call you.
Yeah.
So it's really annoying.
It's a generational thing.
Yeah.
I grew up with telemarketers calling all the time, and so like I've just learned not to answer my phone. That's not true. Healthy. I mean, because I see like you have a tendency to call when I'm actually in the middle of doing something and can't answer. Not that I'm like I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's Andre. Like If I am available to answer and you call me, I answer my phone. You are honestly like one of the only people on that list. That is a ridiculously short list. Ask my dad; he's not even on that list.
That's good, because I think that's part of the problem. People like the tool has become like it dictates what people do now, which doesn't make sense to me. And I think that if you look behind the curtain, look at how many developers don't use social media. It's astounding.
Yeah.
It's freaking astounding. People that know technology, not from a cursory level, but developers or maybe things in that realm or that domain.
Engineers.
Whatever you want to call them. Like, God. Potato.
Software architects.
God. Jesus.
Python welders.
Oh, God. I swear I'm going to punch you in the face. But it's true. It's like they don't use social media, or they use it in a way that's actually productive, right?
Right.
Like Reddit would be an example of that. And Reddit's just a forum to me, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I may find things on Reddit that are interesting. I may start a dialogue and then I'm out. But I'm not looking at Reddit for. It's just a forum. That's it. It's not. It's a contact point.
I mean, and like I would say that in a lot of ways, like Twitter is kind of the same thing. I mean, all social media in that sense kind of is. It's a forum in a sense, right? Like.
No, because like you take. No, it's not true.
Okay.
It's not true, because the content form is different on Twitter. The content form is a little bit more expanded on Facebook, but it's the same premise, right? You're not really trying to, and I haven't used Facebook in years, so I wouldn't know. But you're not really trying to share a complete idea in my general sense of Facebook and Twitter, and I think that's about it. TikTok, now it's visual, so I can probably group them all.
But see, I could make the same argument about probably 90% of the stuff on Reddit.
Well, Reddit's just an example, right?
No, I know, but it's the one that you use, so.
But so if I look at a developers forum, it's no different than looking at Stack Overflow.
Okay.
Right? I don't consider Stack Overflow a social media site. So my definition of social media, right? So I look at developer stuff and it's like, hey, so I'm working through this problem, blah 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 blah. I found a solution, or can I get some help, right? So the content or what I'm looking at isn't geared towards.
I don't know. It's just like, so maybe it is because I am still using Facebook to some degree now, that Facebook has become a lot of groups, which are essentially forums or subreddits. And those things just show up in your feed. So as opposed to you can go seek out those individuals, forums.
So exactly. So my point being is the normal content use type on Facebook, Twitter is not geared towards anything outside of just the random garbage. And I see a lot of Facebook community advertisements, so they're really trying to push that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's a mixed bag when it comes to the group stuff. Like, sometimes there's valuable group, but I mean, yeah, like 90% of the time it's garbage. But again, like, I would say 90% of the entire like subreddits are like stupid ass topics that have no actual merit and don't provide real value. It's just it's like dogs farting.
So okay, so your target is Reddit. My thing is, when I look for content or something I'm going to actually pay attention to, it's specific for whatever my actual interests are.
Sure.
Right. So developers, for the most part, or people that are into a real discourse, right? You'll see a different trend, like Quora, right? They have a different trend, or the content types are always different. It's not the same as general social media.
It
changes.
It's not the same. But I
think that and I'm not trying to like do semantics. I hate semantics. My point being is like the mainstream part of this is becoming toxic. That basically, the number one visited sites on the internet,
are porn.
for the last are porn.
Right.
So with all the things we can do with technology, the number one thing people want to do is look at some tits and ass. That's my point.
I mean,
right?
it is like next to eating, one of our, it's probably the number 2 driving factor instinctually.
For me, it's a hot shower.
No, I get that, but I'm saying instinctually. Like, you make sure you got food in your stomach, and then make sure you're procreating so that you're...
Totally got it.
But
it diminishes what the technology could be used for, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess. Like, I don't see why it can't be used for both. The fact that more people go to that than the other stuff, like, yeah, I understand, and I think that says something, right, about where we are sociologically, I guess. Like, I mean, like, we're in a screwed up place. Like, I mean, it's not like not that it's like, so bad we can't come back from it. I keep having to pull my dad off the ledge because he's like, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. And it's just getting worse and worse. And I'm like, and my mom is even like, your dad said the same thing when,
in
he was your age.
1985,
And
right?
and he was like, oh, well, he didn't know what he was talking about. And I do. And it's like, like, yeah,
My
are
point
things
being,
screwed up? Yes, I see that, right? But, like, I'm not giving up hope. And part of it, right, is because I'm also sitting here thinking, like, I've got another 30, 40 years left on this earth for us to turn things around. He's sitting there looking at it like, I got, another 10, 15 years maybe?
20 at best, yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I get the whole relativity of it, and it's a very natural cycle to get to the end, and not to the end, but... to get to a later stage in your life and start to look back and feel like, oh, wow, things are really screwed up. But
and I'm not an optimist, but I would say that we confuse our vocabulary, and our lexicon is so stupid and minimal that we say it's complicated. It's not complicated. It's just complex, right?
But Andre doesn't want to get into a semantics debate. I love you.
I swear to God.
But those, I mean, like, not 5 minutes apart. I don't want to talk about semantics. It's not complicated. It's complex. Like, are you kidding me?
But tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong when it comes to it's not complicated, it's complex. I disagree when it comes to semantics because I think that semantics exists for a reason. I think there's a reason that we use specific words to describe specific things. Okay. And also because you're my brother and I love you and I gotta sit here and give you shit. Like that's what I do.
But when I use semantics, it's not to pull all the threads.
Yes,
right?
I get that. There is like using semantics to be an asshole.
Yeah.
And there's using semantics because you're trying to make a point. Which I get. Yeah. I do. But I'm the one who, while you're trying to make a point, is also trying to be an asshole.
Yeah, it fucking pisses me off.
Yeah, I know it does, but if you're gonna sit here and say something about I don't want to argue semantics, and then turn around and use complex and complicated, like I'm going to sit here and say, well, Andre, I hate to point out, but that's a bit of semantics.
Read a dictionary, dick. So let's go to pop culture.
Okay.
Pop culture.
Okay, I'm going to say this one time only. The Suicide Squad
best
movie
of the summer.
Sucked.
It really wasn't that good.
It was a garbage movie, and anybody that says different is wrong. You're wrong by definition.
Okay, I'll be wrong then. I enjoyed it enough. Like I went. Okay, so I gotta preface this. I saw it in a movie theater.
Okay.
Right, so it was the first time that I've been in a movie theater. I had great seats in the movie theater because we were the first ones there, so we got to pick. And so that certainly influenced it, right? Like there was a part of it being out and like in a movie theater watching a movie for the first time in forever. That certainly played into like, oh, I'm enjoying this, right? Like I was in a good mood to start with. We've talked about this on previous episodes, but like I have adopted the belief that if you have no expectations going into something, you are far more likely to be pleasantly surprised than sadly disappointed, right? And
well, I had no expectations.
You had no expectations and were still grossly disappointed. I get that. And I mean, we talked about it right after. Like I texted you and I was like, dude, went to go see Suicide Squad. It wasn't that bad. Only a couple of WTF moments. And Andre's like, the whole movie was a WTF moment. What do you mean it wasn't that bad? Like, we could not have had more diametrically opposed positions after having seen that movie.
Joe. I am so tired of James Gunn.
The more that I've thought about it, because I have not rewatched it, but the more that I've thought about it, the less and less I enjoyed it, and the more it felt like a bunch of James Gunn jokes.
Yes.
Kind of strung together and loosely
for
tied
2.5
into
hours.
Yeah, like a Suicide Squad thing. And then you had like the weird Harley Quinn movie in the middle of a movie.
Yeah.
You know, there was no main bad guy. Like there was nobody to really get, you know, that you didn't like. Nobody that had really good motivations, which we've talked about previously. Andre doesn't think that characters need motivation. I'm a firm believer that motivation helps to drive the story and your engagement with it. I mean, like, they killed Pete Davidson right off the bat. That was sad. I love Pete Davidson.
Yeah, that's my dude.
Like, they had that one dude swim away just so she could blow his head up because they never did it in the last movie. That was all it was. All it was. I mean, there were so many of those things where it's like, well, we want to see this, so we're going to figure out a way to tie it in.
I just hated that movie. I really did. I started watching it like Friday night when it came out, and then I was like, no, I don't want to watch this. And I went to sleep.
Did you feel kind of bad for Idris Elba?
Yo, how do you go from being the sexiest man alive to doing bullshit movies? I'm sorry.
I don't know.
God.
I mean, like,
Jesus. Every movie he's been in has been a turd, and it's like, yo, dude.
He's been in a lot of really bad movies lately.
Yeah, it started with Calvin and Hobbes, or what was it? Hobbes and
Hobbs and Shaw. That wasn't. I mean,
Shaw. It was like Calvin and Hobbes.
That was like that, but that's like typical Fast and Furious franchise crap. Like that, I excuse because it was all wrapped up in that. Like there was still an underlying enjoyable like moments in those films, right?
I'm sorry. At his caliber and like. I believe the hype on Idris Elba.
I mean,
right?
I'm not saying I'm starting to feel like
he's
it was
typecasted.
To some degree.
To be fair, he did his role with what he was given. It was a role. And he did a good job. Like I think he has to learn how to say no. Right.
Well, that's probably maybe more than anything. Like he was in that awful movie with Robb Stark from Game of Thrones, where it was like Robb Stark, the guy who played Robb Stark, obviously, was a pickpocket.
He's playing like a detective.
Yeah, and he's a detective. That was another garbage movie. Absolutely awful. He was in The Losers?
The Losers, yeah.
That was not
I'm just saying,
as enjoyable as it should have been. Like, there's just so many things.
He had a bit role in like the second Ghost Rider, and I'm just saying, like, Idris Elba is a great actor. There's an African actor that he plays a bad guy in every movie. He's a bad guy in like one of the Fast and Furious. It's like, look, I would totally not. He also played in Guardians of the Galaxy. He was the guy that killed it in the first he chased Star-Lord for like 20 minutes, blah blah blah. But it's like, look, man.
Oh yeah.
I would say no. I just thought the movie was garbage. It should not have been made. Or it's not even good for entertainment value.
Well,
I was
good.
more frustrated watching it.
It was good for the pitch meeting value.
Yes, pitch meeting.
They nailed
that movie.
Yeah. And I'm starting to really become disillusioned with CinemaSins and the everything wrong with, because apparently it takes them forever to get around to doing any of those. Says the guy who's got like 8 podcast episodes he hasn't edited yet.
Yeah, no, you gotta hurry up, dude.
But I'm here to criticize everybody else.
I think they have to wait for like movie rights and stuff like that.
No, I mean I figured as much, but it's still frustrating.
They do but it's just like they're not wrong. Like I hate.
Well, okay, there are times when I'm watching it, and I'm like, yeah, y'all being a little picky about that. Like I get it.
Like what?
I don't know specifically, but I'm just saying there are times when I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, yeah, like I kind of see what you're saying, but ultimately, like within the context of the movie, I get why they did it.
That's rare.
It is somewhat rare. I'm not disagreeing. Like I'm just saying, like there are times where I'm like, I mean, yeah, like if you want to be an asshole about it, you could call that a cinema sin.
But sometimes they'll say like, I'm going to be an asshole about this.
Yeah, no, I mean, and sometimes like obviously like he takes sins away for good stuff that he likes. And I mean, like 90% of the time, the reason I'm watching it is because I thought the movie was crap, and I wanted to see. Like the Fast and the Furious ones are hilarious. They're like 30 minutes long. There's so many things that are wrong with it.
Another thing I started watching was Drunk History. I don't know how I ever missed that.
There are times
amazing.
where I am entertained by Drunk History, but I don't know. Like I've been finding drunk people less and less entertaining lately.
Wait till your wedding. I'm loads of fun. That's another one. Cracked. I don't know how I missed that. I don't know why they ever sold their company to just go belly up. They have a series called Honest Commercials.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, they're brilliant. Like if what's a good example?
If the real
car
commercials had real people in them.
Honest?
Yeah.
No, if they're honest. No. You haven't seen this.
Oh, this isn't the dude from Boston.
No, this is a guy. He's like, I'm Roger Horton, and he'll like do some stuff.
No, you'll have to send it to me. You've seen the one with the dude from Boston, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Those are hilarious.
Cool.
And I think that, and I kind of like I love the laugh. I love comedy. Oh, did I tell you I went to see a comedy show a couple weeks ago?
You told me. I don't think we talked about it on here.
Oh, I saw Miss Penny. I think that's her name. Let me make sure I got it right. Gosh, where's my cursor? Miss Penny. It was like, ladies and gentlemen, you can't see me because I'm looking at another screen.
No, we can see you. We can see you just fine.
Comedian Miss Pat. Yo. She was bananas, yo.
Where was this?
This was at this it's pretty close to where E area is, off of 55 going into Durham.
Mm-hmm.
Next to that little beer place that we go to. In the the mixed use place?
Yeah.
Right as you're leaving Cary going into Durham, mm-hmm. Right? Yo, it was bananas. Joe Coy.
Yeah.
I can't.
He's
going to be there like in February.
Oh, okay.
No, he's going to be there in February, I think, or somewhere in Durham. But
I might have to get tickets for that because Christy loves him.
Yeah. So let me know. We'll hook that up. Miss Pat was hilarious, yo. The opening act, that dude slayed it. He was like bananas. I can't remember the kid's name, but it was dope. And the second guy was funny. He was from Atlanta, but he was good. But like the opening act and Miss Pat, it was a dope show. One thing I like about her is that apparently she used to sell crack back in the day. She did some time in Fed Pen, and she got her life together. I've seen her on Netflix a couple times, or one time, I guess. And she talks about how like she's taking care of her niece's kids and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
like lovely story, and it's just like it was just it was raunchy at some points, but it was hilarious. It was just straight funny, yo. It was just like one of the best things. I'm like, yo, Carrie's really blowing up to have like national spots, like show up in a comedy spot.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
That's awesome.
Like, I loved it.
Do you want to hear
Yeah,
my
and I think-
inverted pop culture experience from the weekend?
Sure.
So,
You saw Klansman?
no, jeez. They had the Carolina Beach Music Festival was this weekend,
God, I'm glad I missed that.
and so they have the boardwalk.
Did
That's
you go?
yeah. So we got tickets because some friends of Christie's had already gotten tickets. Like they were going to be down here for it, and they were like, "Oh, you guys, if you're not doing anything, you should come." And so I was like, "All right, cool." Tickets were like $40, I think. Not cheap, not super expensive, but we get ready to go over there on Saturday, and they had gotten there before us, and they're like, "Well, we can't set up a tent." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "You had to buy a VIP ticket in order to be able to set up any sort of structure larger than an individual umbrella that's like clipped onto your chair." And I'm like,
You're kidding me.
okay, so everybody that couldn't afford or didn't choose to purchase a VIP tent just has to bake in the sun all day. Yeah, or didn't know because it wasn't an option on the thing when I went to buy it. And so we're like, all right, well, I guess we'll be there for like 20 minutes until we're dying, and then we'll leave. But then they've basically what they did is they had like that orange construction fence blocking off a portion of the beach right in front of the boardwalk where the band was set up and playing. So all we did was set up directly on the other side of the construction fence with our tent. Like, we bought tickets, so we had every right to be at the event, but we set up just on the other side of the construction fence because it literally, like, the thing was so crowded. That's where we ended up anyways, was all the way out kind of against the edge. And it's like, okay, well, I guess we'll just go literally 5 feet over here to the other side of this fence and set up so we can have our tent and not
See, that's
die
the
out
stuff
here.
that non-white people do. Yeah. You might not be white.
Yeah.
Except for the fact you went to the
Carolina Beach Music Festival. Well, and then we were talking about it like, well, next
Well,
year
they
we're
shot-
not even going to buy tickets. We're just going to go post up
gonna
right
show up.
outside. Like, oh, and there was this dude, because, like, we packed a
Were
cooler.
they shagging?
No.
What do they do there?
What?
Tell me more.
What do you mean?
I assume like shagging, you know, that little thing
Oh,
that
the
white people do.
Dancing?
The dance.
No, there's no, I mean, there was no, like, dancing. I mean, maybe there was dancing. It was just a bunch of drunk people sitting on the beach listening to live music. That's all it was.
Oh, okay. See, I'm glad you explained that because I'm thinking you went to a shagging festival.
Oh, no.
because every time I think about Carolina beach music, I always associate it with shagging.
Okay.
Okay.
No,
I'm
that
sorry
was not
for-
the case. I mean, it was like beachy rock music kind of stuff. Like, it was nothing to write home about, but, you know, it wasn't like offensive to the ears, and there wasn't a bunch of weird dancing going on. Again. But yeah, just like, so like,
I feel so bad. I'm like,
Don't.
going, Chris is listening to
That's what I
shagging
read.
music.
and so like we packed the cooler, we had
I
chairs
can't
that
like
we
him
brought
anymore
with
because
us. I'm trying to tell this
that would
story
be
here.
it. I'm sorry.
No, it's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
I mean, whatever.
This is
like,
payback.
I
This is
interrupt your
payback.
stories all the time. I'm just being an asshole. But so like I'm carrying this heavy ass cooler. We got chairs that were on our backs, and we walked all the way down the street. But then we were like, well, it's on the beach, right? So we walked to the beach to go, and there's like this one security guard sitting there, who like runs up and like stop. And I'm like, okay. He's like, if you don't have a green wristband, you can't get in. And I'm like, okay. We have tickets, right? Like, we didn't have our wristbands yet, but we had our tickets on my phone. And I'm like, I have tickets. He's like, if you don't have a green wristband, you can't come in. And I'm like, where do I get a green wristband?
Did you do that?
No,
Did
but
you
I
do that?
really wanted to.
Why not?
Because
Gosh.
because
that
I'm
would've been
me,
so-
Andre. I was like, okay, I get that. Where do I go to get a green wristband? And he was like, oh, you got to go over there. Points to the completely wrong direction. And so, like, we double back a little bit. We walk over. We had to walk all the way down to the opposite side of the boardwalk to go get our wristbands. And then I was just like, at that point, I was ready to leave already. Like, I was already done. This dude was unnecessarily aggressive and hostile right off the bat. And that was enough to put me, like, all I wanted to do was sit down and drink my beers so that I didn't have to carry them back to the house. It was so hot. It was just, yeah. I mean, like, it was not
a good experience.
No, the whole thing was made better because we left after, like, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it wasn't that long, but it was long enough.
That's a commitment.
It was a bit of, I mean, we hauled all that shit out there, so it was like we were going to commit for a little while. But then we went to Panacea and had a very nice dinner up there, so that made it worth it. But yeah, that was my shitty pop culture weekend.
Well, if it makes you feel better, this weekend I'm going to see Jerry Rivera. He's a salsa singer on Friday. And
why would that make me feel better?
Well, because, like, it's actually going to be music you can dance to.
Oh, speaking of which, did I tell you I started my my wedding dance lessons?
You did.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
I will be recording those steps because I need something to laugh to.
Because you're gonna want to learn how to do this awesome dance. You're gonna be like,
you, right?
all right, I got to see Chris's birth certificate because there's no way that dude's 100% white.
What are you dancing? Like a waltz?
No, a waltz. It's a rumba.
A rumba. Gosh. Wait. You're not even Portuguese. Like, you're not even a Spaniard. Those are the only, like, or Italian. Fuck.
No, but I am a pervert. Often confused for being Italian.
Okay. So I But man, that's my dude, man.
I know.
Come on.
But I felt like that was a good way to wrap things up.
No, here's a better way to wrap things up. So, the Puerto Rico group. So, short story is when we went to Puerto Rico, like the group kind of like hosts parties every now and then. We'd been at the end of the list, or whatever. Like, hey, when do we come to your house? And we were on the spot. Then there's a drinking game. My wife lost, and that put us like at the top of the list.
Right. And
then the people that are supposed to host the next party, they go to Ecuador for like 3 weeks, and like, yeah, this is not okay. Like, I'm telling my wife, like, you hooked me into this, and we're it's okay.
So now it's your turn.
That's not, yeah. So, but my buddy had a birthday party last weekend, and he's Peruvian, so that was like 2 days. And I'm not joking, 2 days. So we left Saturday. He goes, come over tomorrow for ceviche, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay. And everybody was like, drunk. It was like, okay. We get there on Sunday at like 1. And we're taking my daughter to work. And she's like, yeah, we're telling her, like, yeah, we're not going to be here when you get home. She's like, are you guys going to go out every weekend now that I went to college? I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how that's working out. Like, we're definitely doing that.
That was the whole point of this, sweetheart.
18 years just so we can go out every weekend. And then, so we go to Sunday and there's a concert, and my wife, there's some salsa singers that you just like, if they come to town, you got to see them.
Yeah.
Right. Like Mark Anthony's in Miami in November, I think. I might be going to Miami. I don't know.
I like how Miami is now like coming into town. Like, you live in Raleigh, dude. You're like, oh, he's coming to Miami? Oh, I guess we gotta go. It's Mark Anthony. Oh, he's gonna be in Rio de Janeiro. I guess we gotta go.
But he doesn't tour a lot. And my wife,
know. I'm just messing. I understand.
Yeah, that's her.
There are certain artists that I would travel multiple states to go see. There's very few of them these days, but
yeah, we have to explain to our daughter that, like, no, look, honey, you're off at college now, and mommy and daddy are just gonna pretend like we're like 20 again, so it's okay. But yeah, so this Friday I'll be dancing till 3 o'clock in the morning. That's probably what's gonna happen. Actually, it's probably not true because I'm getting old. I'm like, I'm probably like, let's go to the Waffle House.
Yeah, it doesn't
call it a night.
Doesn't work the way that it used to. It's
yeah,
it's a lot harder to recover these days.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're super glad you joined us. We're not sure when you're going to hear this.
Or any of these ever.
So you got to figure that out, bro. Like, I mean, I will publish things. It'll be jacked up.
I know. I had my week to travel last week. Early this week. Yesterday, I had to I was up in Cary for like 20 minutes. So I got to do lots of driving, but we're trying to get caught up from the trade show. And so once I get through that stuff, then I'm probably working on my wedding and my house down here. But that's the problem. That's where I find myself right now. I'm struggling to prioritize time for the podcast, but
there you go.
I'm getting closer to a point of being able to do that. So hopefully here we'll start releasing some episodes, and some of the editing might get rather lazy in terms of me bleeping things out that are just swear words and not, people's names or locations that we're not supposed to give out.
No judgment.
We may lose the topic intros if they weren't included in the episode itself. I don't know. The problem is I say that now and then I sit down to do it. I'm like, well, I'm here. I might as well fix that. And so,
you're right.
It's like I'm the worst kind of perfectionist in that regard.
That's fair, but we've got a few more days. 11 days until we're getting you drunk and driving you around.
Yeah. And hitting.
I've got your outfit.
Hitting some golf balls.
Yeah. Got your outfit ready for you.
Yep. I know Christy was very glad to hear that you were going to enforce.
It's here.
Good.
It's here.
Excellent.
It's here. I got.
She's got one too.
Oh.
That I got to pick out.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about Jersey Shore because they're back, but we don't have time.
Next time.
But next time. I love that show. But as always, we're super glad you guys joined us. Follow us on the things. And I'm Andre.
I'm Chris.
We'll talk to you next time. I'm not sure what that is.
This episode of the Chris and Andre Show is brought to you by Corona Light. Drink Corona Light if you want to be like Chris and Andre. Or, if you don't, that's an option too. Do whatever you want. Just do what makes you happy.
You're a grown man.
I am a
woman.
I am a grown ass man. I do what I want.